All right, welcome back to C4 Sports live on 88.3 The Dog. It's the time you all have been waiting for. We got March Madness preview. The tournament really gets underway tomorrow night for most of us, unless you're interested in the playoff games, or the play-in games. But for the most part, the tournament will kick off Thursday night. I know I'm going to my boy Joe Bush's house for a little grill out, watch the games there. Ryan, I think you have the best deal out of all of us.
Yeah, I have the best deal of all. I'm a big college sports fan in general. They go up to the pros except for baseball, which will be my tops always. In 2009, I went to the Big Ten tournament. This year, I'm headed down to St. Louis after this radio show to watch the second and third round matchups. I used some of my Christmas money for the games, and I'm just glad that I got cheap tickets when I did, or after the brackets came out. I was nervous all weekend to find out who I was going to play. I'm like, I hope I don't see anybody horrible. I was hoping that Kansas was going to lose so they didn't get a 1 seed, so I would make it even worse for me. But I'm happy with the teams I get to face.
Yeah.
See, I'm really looking forward to seeing Kentucky, even though I don't like what Calipari does. I don't like the one and dones. I'd like to see them live and see what they do and all the hype and the fans. And the fans and the pep bands have always been the best part of going to NCAA games for me.
So I'm pretty jealous, to say the truth. I'm not gonna lie. So I've never been to. I've been to a couple of college games, but I've never been to a playoff game of any sorts. I've been to thousands of sporting events, like professional Division I college sporting events. Never been to any playoff games. So
me neither. Even for baseball, yeah. I've never been. So I'm looking forward to it. I've just been grinning ear to ear all week, waiting for it tonight to happen, so I can travel and head down to St. Louis.
All right, so now that we got Ryan's kind of big announcement out of the way, we'll go ahead and go by region, a breakdown until we get to the Final Four. We'll obviously save that for last. Well, I guess, Ryan, we can start with you since you are the college basketball nut on the squad. What are your winners coming out of the bracket? The region.
The region.
With this one?
I have making it to Sweet 16. I have Florida playing UCLA, and then Syracuse playing Kansas. I am very top heavy this year, 1 through the 4 seeds, because even though there's upsets and teams with double digits go to the Sweet 16, I just don't see a lot this year. Like I said, the top 4 seeds in each bracket just look way too good for me to bet against them right now.
So how about we do that? You read off your Sweet 16. You can say a couple upsets or something like that in the first 2 rounds. Sweet 16, and then we'll go through. Ryan, you go Sweet 16, then we'll go Adam, Darius, and I'll finish it off. Then we can go Elite 8, and then who you got coming out of there.
I have the upset. I guess I have Dayton beating Ohio State. I just don't like Thad Matta. Aaron Kraft needs to get his 8 years of college done and get the heck out of there. It seems like he's been there forever. I guess my minor upset would be UCLA over VCU, because VCU's had such a great NCAA tournament the last couple of years. So you don't know what they're coming in. UCLA's been off and on. So I say those are probably my big upsets out of that bracket.
I don't really have any huge upsets in that bracket. It's very chalky to me. I do have VCU beating UCLA as the 5 seed over the 4. I think Shaka Smart's experience, and he's got a veteran team now that has been used to his pressing and all that. I think they go to the Sweet 16, but they run into Florida. I was really tempted to pick Ohio State, kind of Big Ten pride in me, over Syracuse. Just couldn't do it. The zone, even though it's kind of a bogus way to win, I think it gets it done. I don't think Ohio State can score against it. Really tempted to pick New Mexico, actually, over Kansas. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, I was too.
I think Kansas got a very favorable draw as a 7 seed, because normally, Iowa State last year probably should have beat Ohio State as a 7 seed. Kind of disappointing for me, because Embiid will probably be back after the Sweet 16. So that makes KU dangerous. No upsets for me.
Okay.
I won't really say I have too many upsets. I do have Pittsburgh beating Colorado. That's just a 9 beating the 8 in this first round. Looking at Ohio State and Syracuse, like I said, I have Ohio State moving on from Dayton. That was a tough game for me to pick, though. I almost went with Dayton. I actually have Ohio State beating Syracuse, and I think it's partially because of the zone. Like I told, like I said before we came in here, part of my bracket pickings are sometimes personal vendettas against teams and players that I don't like. It's part of the zone. Ohio State, they really haven't been on that good this year, but Syracuse, they've been kind of iffy, especially as of recent. So that's definitely going to be a good game as far as the point guard matchup. Aaron Craft, like you said, his 8 years of college finally coming to an end versus Tyler Ennis, a high-ranked freshman. But as far as not Elite 8, Sweet 16, so the 8 teams I have coming out the South, Florida, VCU, Ohio State, and Kansas. So that's my...
Well, Darius, I have the exact same Sweet 16 as you do. I have my big pick. I got VCU beating UCLA as well, which seems to be... I guess kind of just me and Darius versus.
So
we split it. I do have Pittsburgh also beating Colorado. I think my bracket looks exactly the same as yours through Sweet 16 because I have Florida, VCU, Ohio State, Kansas. I do not like Syracuse. I've seen them play a lot this year. Talk about disappointing. Everybody was saying how they're number one, and even when they were number one, they probably shouldn't have been because they escaped a few of those games early where they probably should have lost, but they escaped.
I was
especially that Duke game.
Yeah.
I was standing up for him against Darius just to make Darius a little upset, and I feel like afterwards I'm like, man, maybe Jim Boeheim is overrated.
So I just refuse to roll with Syracuse at all. I've seen Ohio State a few times. I think this might be one of the worst teams of the Aaron Craft era, his 8 years there. But I'll take Ohio State over Syracuse. They just have looked just probably the most overrated team I've seen all year. The other one is Arizona. We'll get to them in a bit. So that's my Sweet 16. Who I have coming out into the Elite 8 for, I think, all of my brackets except this one. I went with Ohio State over Kansas. I don't like Kansas at all. I think Andrew Wiggins is incredibly overrated. A good player, but incredibly overrated. But this one, I decided to go with Kansas over Ohio State just for the sake of numbers. And then my other team is, of course, Florida. I feel like they were the best team all year probably. So I got Florida and Kansas in that Elite 8 matchup.
Yeah, I have Kansas versus Florida in the Elite 8 matchup in the South region. I picked it because I think Embiid's going to come back. I don't know how healthy, but just a little bit healthy. His presence down low. And then seeing them play in the Big 12 tournament, he is escaping my mind right now. But he just had a huge game against Iowa State, even though they lost. I cannot think of it for right now. He looks good that he could take the pressure off of not having to be there for the first weekend. But I like Florida way too much. Them handling the preseason number 1 Kentucky handedly.
Yeah.
They had a little trouble with their semifinal game, but I still like Florida. Florida is senior-led, and I like the senior-led teams that love to stay. You were going back, Kansas going on. I have Kansas playing New Mexico, and I have them going to the Elite 8, but I'm going to cheer for New Mexico while I'm down there in St. Louis. I have no problem with that.
I've got Syracuse actually going to the Elite 8. I think Kansas is going to have a problem with that zone. I don't know if Embiid's going to be as effective because he's going to be pushed around. He's going to be guarded by Fair. He's going to be guarded by Grant down there. Just really athletic guys that can actually challenge his shot even though they're a little shorter. And I think they'll rough him up a little bit. I mean, maybe hip check him. See if his back's okay. And then I got Florida. I just think I've got him going up against VCU in the Sweet 16. I think what beats the press of VCU is experience, guys who really keep their calm in the face of all that havoc. And Florida definitely has that with 4 seniors starting. And then they've got depth and athletes. Athletes beat a press a lot. Ball movement beats the press a lot. And Florida's just a complete team.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was so close, Matt, like you having Ohio State beating Kansas, but I actually put Kansas I think just, some of the athleticism on that team, and Embiid should be back by then. So I think it'll be enough to beat Ohio State. And then I have VCU beating Florida, riding with my boy Shaka Smart. That's going to be the biggest upset of the tournament.
Is this with your head or your heart?
Well, it's got to be with my heart because I ain't seen Florida play at all this year.
Okay.
So I have no idea. I know they have the SEC Player of the Year. I don't even know the dude's name. And if I see him, I feel like he's somebody I probably see like walking around here somewhere. But, I haven't seen them play. Only person I know involved with Florida is Billy Donovan. So, I don't know any of them. Oh, no, I know they have Patrick Young, the extra strong dude who seems to have really no game as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, I got VCU beating Florida. That press, I feel like that's going to end up hopefully doing something just to make my bracket right. I have no analysis because I did not watch enough college basketball. So there you go.
For me, for that Elite Eight game, the South Regional Champion, I think, will be Florida. I have them beating Kansas in this bracket pretty heavily. I've been really impressed. I've only seen them a few times, but I've seen a lot of their highlights on ESPN, and I've seen a lot of guys like Jay Billis and a lot of the other guys on ESPN talk up Florida a lot. And I don't know, it just seems like the past couple of years there's been one kind of power team. You could talk about Kentucky a few years ago where they were the overwhelming favorite if there was one. Who else? 09 was Carolina. I remember I went with them. They won that was the most dominant team in tournament history, if I'm not mistaken. Even 2010 Duke. So I've kind of rolled with them lately, and it's pulled out pretty well for me. So I'm going to roll with Florida as the South Regional Champion right there.
I also have Florida, and I have it because their big guys are going to push around Kansas way too much with Embiid or without him. Iowa State, that's how they beat them. They just pushed him around and was way too physical down low, and they knew where the weakness was without him there. I think even when he comes back, they're going to be weak down low, but not as much. So I have Florida in the Final Four.
I have Florida going up against Syracuse in that Elite Eight. I have Florida advancing. The one thing that can pull Syracuse out of a zone is getting up on them and forcing them to play man. Shooting does that. Three-point shooting does that. Yeah. And Florida has a freshman, Michael Frazier the third. If you've never seen him shoot, the guy can flat out stroke it. He's hit 5 in a row sometimes, and he causes headaches when he's in the game. I just think Florida's got too much for Syracuse.
And, VCU. VCU versus Kansas in the Elite Eight. And I'm riding with my boy Shaka Smart again. VCU returning to the Final Four.
I really hope, nothing against VCU, I really hope they lose and don't make the Final Four because I don't want to listen to Darius live on air. Just tell all of us off. Just all of us.
VCU returns to the Final Four. Sometimes you have to be a little crazy with these brackets, and so there you go. I don't feel like that region, really, besides Florida, honestly, I don't believe the rest of that region is strong at all. So, of course, Florida is a strong team, and they're going to have to play them eventually, unless they lose to UCLA, like y'all said.
Teams play to their potential that we've seen early on. It would be an awesome. Yeah, it would be an awesome bracket with Kansas and Syracuse. You just don't know what you're getting from them. If you had those top three teams playing on full momentum, like they should be, easy. Probably the second toughest bracket.
But right now, I think as it stands, I think it's easily Florida. So we got 3 Florida South Regional champions and 1 of VCU South
Shaka.
Regional champion.
Come on, Shaka.
He's done it before, so we'll see if he can do it again. We'll move down to the East region. For me, my Sweet 16 is what do I got? I got Virginia versus Michigan State, North Carolina versus Villanova, and I think my upsets is I do have North Carolina beating Iowa State. I know they're arguably the hottest team going into the tournament, but I don't see the hype with them. I haven't seen any of their full games, but I have seen the highlights. They do look good, but I think the opponents aren't quite up to say what North Carolina has played. And as a Carolina fan, they have looked really good and really bad this year at times. I think we see a good team, especially the first couple rounds. I think they bring it for Iowa State. I think they match up well with Iowa State. And Marcus Page has been amazing as the Carolina point guard. He's hit a couple game winners throughout this year, and I like what I've seen from him. One of the most underrated players in the country. So I guess that's an upset, is the 6th-seeded UNC I have beating Iowa State. For me, I think the best matchup of the first round actually comes in this bracket, or this region, of the bracket. Cincinnati versus Harvard, I think, is going to be the best first-round game we see anywhere in this entire bracket. So that's what I got through the Sweet 16 for the East.
I have Virginia versus Michigan State, and then Iowa State versus Villanova. And mine's just going to be simple. I basically almost chalked this bracket up to this point. Not much upsets. The only upset I see, but I couldn't go with it. I just don't like picking Harvard. Harvard over Cincinnati. I still had to pick Cincinnati. I still think they had the tougher competition. Being in the American, I think that's the only one. And maybe St. Joseph's, because they rode pretty hot winning the
They won the A-10.
They won the A-10, and they had to basically win to get to the championship, maybe even come off the bubble and get in. So they could beat UConn, but I still have UConn winning. So, yeah, I'm all chalked on that one.
I have 3 upsets in this. I actually have Harvard beating Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati struggles to score at times, with Sean Kilpatrick being their main guy. You'll see some of him in the NBA. I think he's a really good player, but Tommy Amaker coaches Harvard.
The former Michigan coach.
He was at Michigan. He played at Duke. I think he's big time. I think his team's big time too. I have North Carolina losing to Providence. I think Providence is hot. And actually, the rest of the 2 upset picks are teams that won their conference championships. I have St. Joe's beating UConn also. Ever since UConn got on that hot streak and eventually rode it to the national championship with Walker and Calhoun, I've been a fan of teams that are hot, that win their conference championships and are playing with momentum. So I've got the Heels going down. I've got UConn going down. But I've still got Virginia playing Michigan State. I've still got Iowa State playing Villanova in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Sweet 16, I have Virginia versus Michigan State and Iowa State versus Villanova. But I'm with you because I have St. Joe's beating UConn. I don't like UConn from the times I've seen them play. I don't really. I mean, as a 7 seed, they're not really all that good. Like you said, St. Joe's is hot. They won their last few games. So yeah, that's really the only upset I really have in here. I was close to doing the whole Harvard versus Cincy thing. We know that 12s a lot of times beat 5s at least in one of these regions. But I don't know. I feel like maybe Cincinnati with Sean Kilpatrick can possibly pull out that game. But that, like I said, that's the only game I had them winning because then I had Michigan State beating them. So that's really it. I almost went with George Washington over Memphis too.
I had a hard one with that one too.
Yeah.
I just like the A-10 this year.
Yeah, so I didn't really know what move to make with that one, but I just decided. Like usually when I don't know, I usually just go with the higher seed, and that usually doesn't work out too well. But it's okay. So yeah, like I said, Virginia, Michigan State, Iowa State, and Villanova.
All right, so for me, when it comes to the Elite Eight, I have Michigan State, I guess, upsetting number 1 seeded Virginia, which seems to actually be, from I've been watching, a popular pick. And I think in 2 of my brackets, I actually have North Carolina in the Elite Eight, but this bracket I'm rolling with Villanova. I haven't seen any of them. I can't admit that. All I know about Villanova is McDermott tore him up in that game, which I believe Villanova still won. He did it twice, yes, Ryan. Thank you for that. So other than that, that's all I've heard from Villanova. They were quiet. I'm surprised they got a 2 seed. Them and Virginia.
Yeah.
And Virginia in this bracket are 2 of the under the radar teams, really high seeds that nobody's heard a lot of. So I got Michigan State over Virginia and Villanova in this bracket over North Carolina. But I think that would be a really good game. Once again, it depends on which North Carolina we see.
Well, I'm going to probably have if it works out right, I'm going to have probably one of the most exciting matchups probably in the tournament if it happens. I have Michigan State playing Iowa State. 2 teams that are just going to be forceful, and I could see punches being thrown at this game if it's all said because they're just both physical teams. I just like how both of their momentums, and they both won their conference tourneys, and I like momentum when it's going up in time for the tournament.
I also have Michigan State playing Iowa State. I'm not a huge believer in Villanova. Just haven't seen enough of them, and I have seen enough of Iowa State. I was very tempted to pick Virginia. I've seen them play. Love their coach, Tony Bennett, son of Dick Bennett, who coached at Wisconsin. They play defense, and I love that. I compare them to a more efficient, a better, a more athletic Wisconsin team, almost. I mean, they play defense. They beat Duke twice this season, so they have good wins. They have some bad losses, but I couldn't do it. Michigan State's riding a hot streak, and they're finally healthy.
Yeah, I had the same thing here. Michigan State versus Iowa State. I mean, y'all basically said all that needs to be said. Michigan State right now seems to be almost everybody's favorite to possibly win this whole thing. They're healthy. They struggle with injuries, but it seemed like when they were healthy, they were basically the best team in the country.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really know how you can pick against them. They got a really good draw with this region. The rest of this region is really not all that good. So, I mean, Michigan State, even though they're a 4 seed, it's kind of like they're number one because I really think they're legitimately better than all these teams. So, Michigan State versus Iowa State is the Elite Eight game.
Yeah, I agree with that, Darius. Actually, we got a tweet. I didn't see this at first. My brother actually tweeted at us. That's at Mike_Elman. He said he has St. Joe's, a 10 seed, beating Villanova, which we talked about, and any others as a bracket buster. So which bracket busters stand out to us? So thanks, Mike, for that tweet. We'll actually get to that to the end. I'll hold my brother's question until the very end when we recap our brackets. We'll get through all the regions first. And then I guess we can recap who do we see the bracket busters as, and we can kind of do that as we go through.
Yeah.
So, because that was also kind of a tough matchup for me, too, was that UConn-St. Joe's matchup back in the first round because I've seen a little bit of UConn. They've been hit or miss. I know they were led by Kevin Boatwright, who's from our area.
Yeah.
He went to East Aurora. I saw him play against West. I had some family who went to West Aurora, and we went to that game, which they hold at NIU. Mike, I know if you're listening still, you were there with me when we saw Boatwright play, and he's kind of led the Huskies this year. For me, I have Michigan State and Villanova in this Elite Eight game, and I have Michigan State rolling with this one. Mark, if you are listening, you were up here a few weeks ago when you lost your keys, and we're stuck in Macomb for a day. Hopefully this can make up for that because I got your Spartans rolling into the Final Four and East Regional Champions.
I have Michigan State also. Go Sparty, go Tom Izzo. Probably my favorite coach in the NCAA by far.
It was really hard to actually pick this one because I know a couple of buddies of mine are big Iowa State fans, and I've been riding Michigan State all year. I said initially in our preseason show that they're my favorite to win it all, but I took Iowa State. I just think they're riding such a hot streak, and they match up decent with Michigan State. Athleticism-wise, they're probably more athletic. And I think it's time. I think Fred Hoiberg takes the team to the Final Four. They're ready to bust down the door.
That was a very nice speech you gave. But I'm still going to go with Michigan State. That's my team to go to the Final Four out of the East region.
All right, so we got, 3 Michigan States and 1 Iowa State out of there? So that's kind of how it's been so far. We'll see if that continues. As we move on to the West bracket, for me, I got Oklahoma State in the Sweet 16, so there's one of my early upsets. I'm riding. I got them going pretty far in this, I'll tell you that right now. I like what I've seen since Marcus Smart has gotten back from injury. They just have too much talent on that team, not just with Smart, but I know they got a couple other big names on there that could make waves even in the NBA, and I just think they have too much talent. They're finally starting to click, I think, at the right time, so I think they can make a deep run. I think Smart especially steps up on the biggest stage. So I got Oklahoma State upsetting Arizona, which I told you guys all before the show, I've seen Arizona play about 3 or 4 times this year. They have been, if Syracuse was the most disappointing, I think Arizona was the second most disappointing / overrated team for me this year. I do not like them at all. I can't roll with them. So I got Oklahoma State not only upsetting Gonzaga, but also Arizona. Then I also have San Diego State in there, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. What I like about Nebraska is this guy, I got him right here. I can't. Taron Petaway, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I've seen Nebraska play a few times on the Big Ten Network. The dude is a stud. I think other than maybe Jabari Parker, he's going to be the guy you see as the best player of this possible draft class. I think he's a 6'6" guard, uber athletic. He's a hell of a playmaker. I like him a lot. He's my type of player, especially for the NBA. That's why I like Nebraska to make it to the Sweet 16 where they play Wisconsin for me.
Yeah, I have Arizona versus San Diego State, and then I have Creighton versus Wisconsin. The only big upset I have is Nebraska beating Baylor. Nebraska has Petaway. I like him, even though he destroyed Illinois the time they played him. But I really like Creighton, even though I have them losing up against Wisconsin. But I would like to see them make it to the second week of the tournament. The only other I could see North Dakota State beating Oklahoma, but I am going to go with Oklahoma with good old Illini coach Lon Kruger at the helm. I just want them to win one.
This is actually my upset bracket, or region. I do have Oklahoma State also beating Arizona. I've never been impressed by Arizona. Aaron Gordon doesn't impress me at all.
Not at all.
I mean, even transitioning to the NBA, which he's probably going to after this year, I think
soft,
I think he'll be a bust. He is soft. I think they compared him to Blake Griffin, and I think he is Blake Griffin. As in when he was in college, all he could do is dunk.
Yep.
Not impressed by him, and Oklahoma State's too athletic. They're way more athletic than Arizona.
They just have too much talent. That's what I've seen this year.
Yeah, they have too much talent to just get out in the round of 32. I have OU also going on, so I have Oklahoma State, OU in the Sweet 16. I have Baylor also advancing on. I have them beating Creighton. I just think they're tough, and they're finally hitting their stride. They advanced to the championship of the Big 12 game, and they got length and toughness down low, and I think that's going to give old Dougie McBuckets some problems. And then I've got Wisconsin. I think they got a very favorable draw.
Yeah.
Oregon's dangerous. They beat Arizona late, but
I don't think Oregon has the defense.
right. I think Wisconsin's
It's like how they play football.
yeah, Wisconsin's going to have their way scoring points.
Okay, I definitely have Wisconsin, in the Sweet 16. I have Nebraska beating Baylor. It was tough for me picking that game versus Creighton. I have Creighton somehow pulling out. I still don't know. Because I just said this now, that means I can't change it. But as you were talking, I was really about to scratch it out and put Nebraska here. I don't really like Creighton at all. I mean, y'all know I say every week Doug McDermott is definitely the player of the year.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. Something about Creighton just doesn't sit right with me. As far as, up top, I have San Diego State. I do have Oklahoma State beating Gonzaga. Man, Matt, you just made me feel like so messed up about picking Zona as far as I did. I haven't seen.
It's okay. I will make you more disappointed.
Yeah, so I mean, I have Arizona beating Oklahoma State, and I have them playing San Diego State. Man, like I said, I didn't really see. I seen a little bit of Arizona play, maybe like 3 times, and like 2 of them were losses at the end. So I haven't seen.
I'm telling
too much.
you can't roll with them. That Eric Gordon too. I saw him play a few times. Man, he is soft. He's not your type of player. I know you, Darius. He's not your type of player.
This is not good. Sometimes it's not good that we have like audio of this, because then I can't change like the stuff that I say. So yeah, I have Arizona in the Sweet 16, and sadly even further down. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, I guess I could answer my brother's Twitter question, Mike. I guess my biggest bracket buster would probably be Nebraska for me. I got them in the Sweet 16. I'm telling you, I like what I've seen from them a lot. They're a gritty team. Coming out of the Sweet 16 for me, moving on to the Elite Eight. My Elite Eight is Marcus Smart and Oklahoma State. I'm probably the only one with that, but I got Oklahoma State and Wisconsin in the Elite Eight for me. I think that would be a very interesting matchup, kind of contrasting styles there.
And I have Arizona facing Wisconsin. And I'll just get over my Final Four for my Final Four pick now, because you guys are just going to laugh at me. I have Arizona beating Wisconsin.
I have the same one as you, Matt. I have Oklahoma State winning the Bedlam game against OU, and then I have Wisconsin beating Baylor.
Adam, my boy.
Their guards are better than Baylor's, and I don't think Baylor can make the Elite Eight like a few years ago.
Clearly Ryan knows more about college basketball than any of us, because he picked. Let's see, who did you have? You had Arizona and Wisconsin, and you had Arizona winning. Well, that's what I had, so now I feel a little bit better now.
Up top.
There you go. Look at that. Arizona in the Final Four, somehow.
Unlike you two, I have Wisconsin in the Final Four. So we're split on that one. Yeah, 2 Arizonas, 2 Wisconsins. So I guess that will sum up the West for us right there. We got a lot of contrasting styles I see going on in the West.
Finally for the West. It was basically, we had almost everything. The West finally
opened it up a bit. Yeah.
Now I'm going to predict right now for the Midwest, none of us are going to have the same Final
All right.
Four team.
Okay.
I'm just going to predict that.
Well,
right now.
I could see that. I think so. For me, my Sweet 16 is as follows: Wichita State, Louisville, Duke, and Michigan. That's what I went with. I saw no real upsets in there for me. I guess Arizona State I have beating Texas.
Yeah, same here. That's what I have.
I have the same thing. I have Wichita versus Louisville and Duke versus Michigan. I cannot have Kentucky go after the first week. I just cannot let them go to the second weekend. I also have I guess a minor upset. My big upset of the whole tournament would probably be North Carolina State over St. Louis. St. Louis is limping into the tournament, and I can't believe they've got a 5 seed. They were limping in that bad. The only other thing I could see is Texas beating Michigan, just on the premise of Texas has a couple big boys down low, and that's what ruined them with Michigan State in the championship game of the Big Ten Conference. That's the only thing. I basically have the top 4 seeds going on for the Sweet 16.
I also have the top 4 seeds: Wichita, Louisville, Duke, Michigan. I do have some first-round upsets. I do have NC State also beating St. Louis. St. Louis doesn't impress me a lot. They have one good guard, I think, and North Carolina State has the ACC Player of the Year in TJ Warren. He impressed me last night.
That's why I waited to make my pick.
Yes.
If Xavier beat them, I was going to go with St. Louis.
I've got Tennessee winning tonight against Iowa, and I've got them beating UMass. I saw UMass play, not impressed with them. And Tennessee impressed me playing Florida in the SEC Championship. And I'm going to roll with Arizona State beating Texas. Actually, I'll go on the women's side. I have a classmate that plays for Arizona State. I might be going to see her this weekend if I don't travel with the baseball team. They're playing Vanderbilt right now. And they'll play Notre Dame if they win. So, good for them.
Okay, like some of y'all said already, I have Arizona State beating Texas. I was waiting on the game tonight, Iowa and Tennessee, because I do believe that Tennessee can beat UMass, even Iowa possibly, but since, our show is on Wednesday, I just put UMass in. It was just like, forget it. I actually have St. Louis beating Louisville. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I knew they were limping into the tournament, but I mean, I'm kind of going off things they've done in years past, which isn't too smart, but it's okay. Because, ain't nobody going to check me on it, so there you go.
Yeah.
So, my, let's see, Sweet 16, Wichita State, St. Louis, Duke, and Michigan.
For me, my only playing game I have winning. I think both, Iowa or Tennessee will beat UMass. I think UMass is laughably overrated, to quote Bleacher Report when I was doing some research. I think they're the most overrated, overseeded team in the tournament. So I think both Iowa and Tennessee, whoever wins that, I got either of them beating UMass. Coming out of the Sweet 16 and into the Elite Eight, I have Wichita State over Louisville, which seems to be an unpopular pick from doing research, but I love the Shockers. They're probably next to like a Michigan or North Carolina. They're my favorite team in this. They play my style of basketball. And then I think in 2 of my 3 brackets, I have Michigan over Duke, but for this one, I'm going off what happened earlier in the year. I got Duke over Michigan, so I got Wichita State and Duke in the Midwest Elite Eight.
I have Louisville beating Wichita State and Duke beating Michigan. Sorry, Wichita State. That perfect season is going to end in my bracket. You're going to get out of the first weekend, but after that, no. Good going, but you needed to play some more teams in that preseason to get me to let you go a little bit further.
I've got Wichita State also. Moving on and beating Louisville. I think Fred VanVleet will actually outplay Russ Smith.
Yep, I agree.
Show that 815 calm, cool, collected spirit right there. And I've got Michigan beating Duke. I think they match up very well, and I think they're going to bother them. Being a Big Ten team and playing some defense, being close to the shooters really bothers Duke, and I think that'll be the difference.
Okay, well, Matt, I'm with you. I have Wichita State and Duke. I have Wichita State beating St. Louis, and then I have Duke beating Michigan. If it just so happens that I was incorrect and Louisville does beat St. Louis, and so they end up playing Wichita State, I do hope that Fred VanVleet lights up Russ Smith, because as I was saying, to Matt and Ryan out there, I can't stand Russ Smith, because last year when they was on their little title run, one of these little weak draft experts compared him to Allen Iverson, and that's so disrespectful. Don't you ever compare him to a legend as great as AI. So whoever Russ Smith plays, I hope he gets lit up in every game. Whether they lose the first game, I don't care. I just hope that as long as they don't repeat, really, that's all that matters to me.
Well, I love Fred VanVleet because for me, I think he's the most underrated player in the country. One of them, definitely. I think he might be the best point guard in the country. If not the best, he's top 3. He's probably, I'd say, my favorite next to maybe Nick Stauskas this whole year. And just the up-tempo pace that Wichita State plays, I love it. I think it works well in college ball. We saw it work multiple times at North Carolina. It's the Roy Williams. We have no half-court offense. We just do fast break, even on made baskets. So I'm a fan of that, and I think it works real well in college ball. So for me, coming out of the Elite Eight, I got Wichita State and Duke. I think this is a great game. It goes down to the wire, but I think the experience of last year helps Wichita State out a lot, and I got them beating Duke, and I ultimately think being led by some young players, especially Jabari Parker, who's only a freshman, I think hurts Duke despite the fact they have Coach K. I just like Wichita State a little bit more, maybe even a 1-point buzzer beater win. I got Wichita State as my Final Four team and the Midwest champion for this year.
I have Louisville, and I'm riding with them. I like them in the American Conference tournament, but I also like them throughout. They played Kentucky tough. They didn't have the toughest non-conference schedule, but I like. I don't know how to pronounce it. The Harrell guy down.
Montrezl Harrell.
Harrell. I like him. He is. I don't know how to compare him. I guess would be I don't know how to compare him, but I just like his tenacity. I like his ups, and I usually don't like. I guess he's the closest to Dunk City, I guess, in college basketball. So I'm going running with Louisville.
I've got Wichita State against Michigan in the Elite Eight. I've got Michigan coming out. I think they match up really well. I think this is a region of matchups for me. Michigan matches up well. I think the key is going to be Glenn Robinson III, because he hasn't brought it all year. Yeah. And if he plays big against the likes of Cleanthony Early and some of the big guys for Wichita State, he's going to do well, I think. And if they can free up Stauskas, that's been the huge thing. And that point guard, Walton, if he keeps playing the way he's played all year, I think Michigan is your Final Four for the Midwest.
Yeah.
Okay, I was right. None of us have the same Final Four team. Wichita State versus Duke, and I have Duke advancing to the Final Four. I never liked Duke. I always have respect for Coach K, like him, but I never liked their players. But this year, their team is something different. With Jabari Parker, I like Rodney Hood. I told you our left-hand players got to stick together. So I hope Jabari, just really goes like on a Carmelo type run this tournament, which gives y'all a little hint on how far I see them going.
Yeah. I think if you have any history of March Madness, you know what that means right there. So we got what? Wichita State, Louisville, Michigan, and Duke. So there you go.
I think that bracket's going to decide who.
The Midwest is going to decide the C4 champion. For me, the Final Four, my first matchup is Florida and Michigan State. I'm rolling with Florida in this one. I just think they have too much firepower. I think they are, I guess I've termed it the juggernaut because I went with Kentucky 2 years ago when they were the juggernaut. My brother, so Mike, if you're still listening, I remember we fought. He had Kansas, I had Kentucky, and he was a bit salty after that one. But I've learned to roll with the juggernaut in terms like this. Michigan State might be the hot team. You could make the case that when healthy they were the best team in the country, but I think Florida has proven it all year. I think they were the best team in the country, the powerhouse team, if you will, if there was one. So that's why I'm rolling. I'm going to roll with Florida. I just think they have too many weapons, and Michigan State hasn't shown it yet for me to roll with them.
All right. I have Florida beating Michigan State, and it was just a toss-up for me. I think Michigan State's run ends. I don't think it's there for the whole tournament, and I have Arizona beating Louisville. I'm sorry, guys.
Wow, you have Arizona in the title game?
I have Arizona in the title game. I think they just got too tired playing in the Pac-10, and they want to play some teams outside of their conference because they were strong outside of their conference. They were probably the best team. That's how they got up to number 1 seed. Then when you get into the Pac-10, they were just tired of playing the likes of Utah and them. So like I said, when they get into this tournament, I think that they're good.
All right, so who you at? You at Arizona versus who?
I have Arizona versus Florida in the championship game.
I've got Florida versus Iowa State in one semifinal. I think the Gators take that one. I just think the experience ties back into it. Experience is huge in any sport for me, and especially in college ball. With those 4 seniors for Florida, Iowa State hasn't been there. And they've got the talent to probably make a championship game, but Florida's been there, done that, and I think they get it done. Then on the other side, I've got a Big Ten matchup with Wisconsin going up against Michigan. Believe it'll be the, 4th time they've played or 3rd. So very familiar. I think Michigan's got too much. I think the talent, they're very even teams. They like to get up and score. Don't normally say that about a Wisconsin team, but I don't think they can stop Michigan. I wouldn't be surprised if Stauskas puts up 40 against.
Interesting you say that with the Wisconsin hoodie on.
Yeah. The viewers don't know that, or the listeners don't know that.
Sorry, my bad.
Oh, man. So Michigan back in the title again. That's interesting.
I'm fine with that.
I actually don't have a problem with that. Besides, it would just mess up my bracket. But I mean,
as a Michigan fan, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I wish they would have won last year. I was rooting for them. So I mean, that's fine. VCU, man, that's funny every time I say it. VCU versus Michigan State. No, Shaka, the bus ends here. Michigan State.
All right, I was waiting for it. I thought it was going to the title game.
No, I can't go that far. Michigan State, I had them in the title game. Like I said, they're so healthy. I just feel like they're just on track right now, to do some good things. Arizona versus Duke. I have Duke actually in the title game. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and announce this winner right now. Duke versus Michigan State. Now, I'm just going to let y'all know, I had this game, down yesterday, but I didn't put the winner in until, right before I came in here. And I wrote down Duke.
All right.
What explanation?
So
None.
We have Darius Hawkins, national champion. That is Duke University. I actually didn't give my second game of the Final Four. I had a little brain fart. For me, my second game, I had Florida over Michigan State. My second game was Wisconsin and Wichita State. I got the Shockers going to the championship game with a chance at perfection. I guess a little bit of an upset over Wisconsin. I just feel I don't like Wisconsin as a team. I just feel they have the matchups in their bracket to be able to come out of there in the Final Four. And like I said, Wichita State, my type of team. And not only are they play my type of ball, they're like Western. They're a smaller school, maybe not as small as us, but they are a smaller school. I don't want to say Cinderella, they're a number 1 seed, but definitely repping us little boys out there. So I like what they got. I know they're big criticism. They haven't played anybody, but I think the matchups are good for them other than maybe Louisville. I'm pretty confident with them over Duke, but maybe Louisville scares me a little bit with Wichita State, but I definitely think they can take Wisconsin. So that makes my title game Florida versus Wichita State, and sadly, the quest of perfection ends one game short.
You can't pick them to go this far.
I got Florida ruining perfection in the title game. Florida is just the closest we have to a complete team in college basketball. And Wichita State can go all the way there, but they're not going to beat the juggernaut that is the Florida Gators. So, Darius, you have Duke. Matt Langman's national champion is the Florida Gators. I wanted to pick Wichita. I want them to win. I want them to win. If they get that far and that is the game, I'm rooting for Wichita. My boy Fred Van Vliet and all them guys.
I'm about to say, you spent this whole time talking about representing the little man, and then the type of team you like.
The whole time I said
undefeated, and then you get to the
Billy
title
Donovan
game.
just rushes
all the way undefeated.
I
all
was
the way
riding
to the
Florida,
last
though.
game.
I said they were the best team. I kind of tried to lead to that because I said I've been rolling with the juggernauts, and it's paid out the last few years.
That's a heartbreaker right there. You undefeated, get all the way right there.
That's why, too, I go for the drama, too, and I think that it ends. Like, Illinois had it in 2005 when North Carolina beat them. They were going to set the record, I believe, for the best record ever or something in the modern era, and North Carolina shut their hopes down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sorry, Wichita. I see the dream falling just one game short because Florida's just too good. They're as close as we have to the most complete team in college basketball. And, yeah, I've rolled with the juggernaut before. I'm doing it again. So I got Florida.
And I'm going to go right off of you, Matt, and say that Billy Donovan will be cutting down the nets for the 3rd time. Florida wins. This team reminds me of his Joakim Noah teams, just powerhouse. And I didn't even like Joakim Noah's teams back then.
Yeah.
So Florida over Arizona. I still have it as a close game. My final score is going to be 78-72.
I've got Florida against Michigan. Michigan gets there again, and the result is the same, a loss to Florida. I'm going to make it 3 straight on C4. They're too complete. It's going to be a very good game if it sets up that way. It's going to be Stauskas against Wilbekin. it's very good matchups. It's going to be GR3 against Patrick Young down low. And I think if it happens that way, you're going to see the real Glenn Robinson and how soft he is. Because Patrick Young is, if you've ever seen him, he's got muscles on muscles.
He's going to be real good in the NBA.
So I've got Florida. Billy Donovan wins his third.
Darius, you're the only one here without Florida. So we got Florida, and Duke
Kind of like with our football teams. I mean,
that is true. So knowing this, if history has taught us, well, listeners, you should roll with Darius because we were all confident. I was the only one who even gave the Seahawks a chance in the Super Bowl. I remember that, and I did that. I thought it was going to be a bigger blowout than it was, and I just respected Seattle's defense by making it like a one-touchdown game. And ended up being the exact opposite. So listeners, don't listen to the white boys. Roll with Darius on this one.
Oh man. Oh, this is gonna be a real interesting tournament.
Yeah.
I really want to see how far Wichita State can go. Like I know we have the whole bracket filled out and everything, but that's really the one team that I'm watching more than anybody. I really want to see what they can do. Because they're going to be playing when they play Kentucky, some people I think have them losing that game.
Yeah.
And I really want to see how they match up, Because I feel like they're kind of like
I do want to see how that matchup would go. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I have Wichita State obviously in the championship game, but I think the matchup that does scare me the most, and I believe in them, I do, despite the lack of, I guess, tough opponents during the regular season, is Louisville. I think if there is one that can beat them, is Louisville. I think if the Louisville beats Wichita State, the winner of that Louisville-Wichita State Sweet 16 game will be my Final Four team from the Midwest right there. I think they both of them beat Duke or Michigan in the next round.
So do we have that bracket bust?
The bracket to answer my brother's question,
yeah,
for me, I think my bracket buster is Nebraska, honestly, as an 11 seed. I have them in the Sweet 16. Yeah, I think that's the only double-digit seed, that I have going past the second round is Nebraska in the Sweet 16 for me.
I don't have any double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16, which is weird because I usually like upsets. If I'm going to pick a bracket buster to come through and screw stuff up, I'm going to go outside the box nobody's even thinking and really upset. No, I'm not going to say. I'm going to leave that for another question for everybody. I could see NC State playing a play-in game has helped you. If that says anything, VCU did it the first year they decided to do the first 4 games. Mm-hmm. So I could see NC State doing it because they have the ACC Player of the Year. And a bracket buster, just because they're still a mid-major, even though in the Big East, a bracket buster to go through, I could see Creighton causing some trouble in going through. But those are my bracket busters if I had to pick somebody.
The 1-2 that I have, Adam, you have the same one as Oklahoma State. We both have the 9 seed in the Elite 8.
Yeah, I guess that you could call that my big kind of surprise pick. Even though it's not surprising, if you look at them, if you actually watch them play and look at them on paper, you're like, okay, NBA talent. I guess as far as a bracket buster or a double-digit seed, I don't have any likewise. And I feel this is the year, if any, there's going to be double-digit seeds moving on. Don't be surprised if St. Joe's 1 beats UConn and then beats Nova. Familiarity. Those schools are both in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So don't be surprised. There's no brotherly love lost in that rivalry.
Yeah, I think as far as bracket busters, I'll probably have to say Oklahoma State. Even though, Ryan, what you were saying, I don't really have any double-digit seeds really moving too far besides the first games. Yeah. Of course, I got VCU in the Final Four, and that's gonna bust somebody's bracket up if that happens. But Oklahoma State is definitely a team to look out for. Nebraska as well. I think it's really just with the West region because the rest of them double-digit seeds in the Midwest. I don't really see. The East, I could see St. Joe's and maybe Dayton in the South because if they beat Ohio State, Syracuse hasn't necessarily been playing all that great. So maybe look out for Dayton too. But besides that, I don't really see too many teams.
I guess for me, one more I have North Carolina in the Sweet 16, but they're only a 6. But I know a lot of people are down. Not many people have them even beating Iowa State. A couple people have them being upset by Providence even. I think looking at this, it's interesting. I think the South is pretty weak, honestly, because like you had said, Ryan, it should be really good, but it's actually pretty weak other than Florida, really, we have out there. And the Midwest is, to use a soccer term, what the United States got stuck with for this summer is the group of death, I believe, is the Midwest region. You got Michigan,
Yes.
Duke, Louisville, even St. Louis and Wichita State. You can even throw Kentucky in there. They kind of underachieved a bit. Not quite the freshman talent pool Calipari's used to, but they're still loaded with talent and athleticism, as Calipari teams always are. So I think the South and the Midwest are just exact opposites. And the West, when I look at the West, it's just interesting matchups. Coming into the tournament, I would have never thought I would pick Wisconsin in the Final Four, but I just think Oregon, Nebraska, and Oklahoma State, or possibly Arizona / even San Diego State, they all match up well for Wisconsin to make a Final Four run.
Yeah. I have a question. And Darius, I want your honest opinion. I know you picked this team to go far.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chances that SF Austin can make a run? 27, I think at least 27 games.
28 game winning streak.
Game winning streak. I know 12 seed gets them up there to show what they're made of. I mean, 27, you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I don't have them winning, just because you just don't know who they've played and the talent they've been around. But could they make a little run and make it to the Sweet 16? You guys think?
Sweet 16, let's see. Well, they had to. Yeah, they could. Because when I got this bracket, I didn't just go, oh, yeah, VCU, this is how far I want them to go. I actually was thinking about, when I heard the win streak from SF Austin, I was thinking they might actually beat VCU. And I kind of still think that now. I think it's a chance that they can beat VCU, which, of course, will mess up my bracket. But teams in the past, I never cared about that, like Georgetown last year. So, I mean, they definitely can beat VCU. I don't know how good UCLA is. I haven't seen them play. So, I mean, y'all would have to tell me how good they are. But besides that, I mean, if they beat them, then, of course, that's Sweet 16. So, I think they could make a run. But then again, like you said, we don't really know who they've actually played. That's really probably all I have to say about that. So, I think it probably depends on UCLA because VCU, they probably can beat them.
I think they can, but I just think VCU's press makes the difference.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unlike any speed or athleticism that Stephen F. Austin has faced in the Southland Conference. UCLA, I saw them play a little bit. If they end up beating VCU, Stephen F. Austin does, they go up against the likes of a UCLA. I don't think it matches up well because UCLA's got a bunch of projectable NBA talent. Okay. They've got an Anderson kid that is very good. They've got the two Ware twins out there who transferred from North Carolina. Yeah. Also, though, don't be surprised if Tulsa beats UCLA.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
It's weird and it's wacky, but Danny Manning, the former KU star, coaches Tulsa.
That's right.
So it could happen. You never know.
He had a nice suit for that championship game. He probably was the best dressed coach of the whole weekend. He had the pinstripes going on, and he looked like a 40s, 50s gangster.
Nice.
Without the little fedora hat going on.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that Tulsa over UCLA upset because doing my research for this, I saw a decent, not a lot, but a decent amount of experts actually picking Tulsa to beat UCLA and beat VCU as well and make it to the Sweet 16 where they would lose to Florida. But, yeah, I think that little group right there, the VCU, SF Austin, UCLA, Tulsa, those matchups are going to be some of the most interesting to watch of the entire tournament. But for me, the game I'm looking at still, I said it earlier, is that Cincinnati-Harvard game. I really want to see that. It should be the best matchup, I think, of the first round. And I got to ask it, what do you guys think is give me a percentile chance. It hasn't happened yet, but it was the headline on ESPN today on ESPN.com was, it's got to happen eventually, ... right?
16.
Percentage, a 16 seed is able to beat a number 1 seed. If this is the year, finally, first time ever, a 16 seed is able to advance out of the first round. Percentage, because I'll go 0.05. I think it's virtually nothing. But yeah, if it is March Madness, you can't go 0, so I'm going 0.5.
I'm going to go 1%, and that 1% is with the Coastal Carolina.
I'm going to go with 1%, and that being, I believe Cal Poly is up on Texas Southern right now in the playing game. Them beating Wichita State, because why not? 2 mid-majors.
I'm going to say the highest out of the group, I'm going to say 5%, and it's that Virginia versus Coastal Carolina. Because Virginia doesn't usually get, and this isn't coming from me, this is coming from other analysts saying that Virginia doesn't blow people out, and they don't blow people out when they're supposed to. They keep teams in the games, and if you do that, that's a recipe for disaster. Coastal Carolina is the only team that I could see that could be a 1 seed this year, and that's it. I don't see any others. I don't care about Cal Poly's winning big right now. 13-19, Wichita State's going to say, like, ha, bam, done.
Yeah, their record is not good at all. But, yeah, Coastal Carolina, even, like, joking around on Around the Horn, that's the 116 seed that people just, like, throwing out there. So, I think that maybe they can make the game competitive because I see that Virginia, they don't really score a lot. They're a defensive team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, defense, of course, is going to help you win, but you got to score points. So, Coastal Carolina might be able to give them a little run for their money.
And before we get off, I'll end with any 15 seeds. Because I know my girlfriend has Milwaukee beating Villanova, and I scratched my head on that one, but that's okay. She can do her thing. Any 15 seeds doing that. Remember, what was it, 2 years ago where Duke was upset and another...
Duke and Missouri.
Yeah, by the 15 seeds that messed up everybody's bracket.
Florida Gulf Coast was a 15 seed.
They beat Georgetown.
Last year.
Yeah.
So do you see any of that?
Well, when you asked that question, I saw that American is a 15 seed, and that made me just think about a retweet that Adam, I think I saw you do it.
Yeah, it was my brother. You can give him credit on that. It made me laugh and shake my head.
I think the tweet said, if technically you don't pick American to win the whole thing, doesn't that mean you're un-American?
Yes.
So, sure, 15 seed, look out for American. There you go.
I'm going to go with Eastern Kentucky because I heard that Eastern Kentucky has a couple big guys down low that could disrupt, that could potentially show Kansas's weakness without Embiid.
Okay.
I'm going to go with kind of my Wisconsin roots a little bit in my family. I'm going to stay in Milwaukee.
Okay.
They're a team that kind of ran through their conference tournament as they upset teams in their conference. So they're hot, and we don't know about Nova. So why not?
All right, I think that's all we got tonight for college basketball preview. So to recap, I am rolling with Florida. Ryan is rolling with Florida. Adam is rolling with Florida. And Darius is rolling with the Duke Blue Devils.
Come on, Jabari.